2, 1.
Here we go. Fire it up, footballers. What's up, Jigs? How you doing?
Doing fine. We were gonna try out a new, much better sounding mic for me, but things didn't go well.
Yeah, it was funny. We were troubleshooting. We couldn't hear Jigs for the first few times we called him. But all right, fire it up, footballers. We'll get right into it. So it's crazy that the season is coming up. I think I saw it was 50 days or something like that. And right before we just got on, we went live. We were talking about the roster. And I think before we get in the roster, I kind of want to talk about the upcoming schedule. So our first game is away at LA Galaxy. What do you think about that, Jigs?
I really like that they got Guillermo Barros Schelotto. I remember when he was connected to us. It was right before we hired Pauno, and it was him and Pardo who was connected to us. And everyone wanted Schelotto. And instead of coming here, he ended up going to Lanús in Argentina, and then he's ended up coaching Boca Juniors and to the Copa Libertadores final. So he finally makes it MLS, but he's not making it here. I think he's doing a good job at building out a new LA Galaxy team, and they're gonna destroy us.
And they got Zlatan. So, and we have no back line. We have no one in our back line except Marcelo. So, who's going to defend Zlatan? Corrales or I don't even know who our right backs are. So,
we don't have a right back.
No.
And I don't think Corrales is on the team.
Oh, I thought he had a roster.
I don't remember.
Roster spot.
I remember something about declining his option.
No, I thought they picked it up.
No, Corrales is still on the team.
I thought Corrales is still on the team.
Corrales is definitely 100%
still on
the
team.
He's
definitely on the team.
Loaned out.
Well, they don't even have any defenders. That's what's crazy. There's no way.
I did not hear anything about Corrales being loaned out.
He's
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
No, I've only heard about Del Greco being loaned out and Collier being loaned out.
And I think Collier may be getting his green card soon. That's what I heard.
Okay. But
what about Campos?
Campos also probably should be getting his green card soon. They both went to college in the States. They're both should be fairly close to getting their green card.
So LA Galaxy, obviously, that is a tough game. Then we're home opener March 9th, Orlando City. So that's definitely a winnable game. But again, it's really hard to predict these games when we still have maybe 10.
Right now.
We have 10 roster spots open. We don't even have a back line. So really hard to predict, but you still think you can win that game. And then you have Seattle at home, Red Bull. Wow, this is tough. Seattle, Red Bull, and then Toronto away.
Those are going to be difficult.
We don't even have a team right now. I don't even know how we can even talk about the possibility of winning games against those teams.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So it's...
Well, let's take a look at this team real quick. I mean, because I feel like up top, we got a lot of options. Well, actually, some of those options have diminished today, as it appears that Urena is going back to be with. He's not going to be signing with the Fire, but that's also one less international slot you have to worry about. But if that was what's holding up the Ojeda deal, there's an international slot that just departed today. So I really wonder if it's not necessarily about international slots, but more so about the potential DP level deal or versus a loan level deal, because $4 million price tag turns into DP territory, as I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, the transfer fee definitely pushes people into designated player. I remember something about how designated player is judged not just by the contract, but by the transfer fee. Basically, just whatever if you have to pay an extra amount as an owner, they're designated as a DP, I think. Right?
Yeah, and it's a shame to lose out on Urania. He was going to be excellent, I think, an excellent sub to Nico.
Yeah, and again, it's like that spot became a little more thin. So who do they have? They have Collier, Campos, Nico.
I'm looking through international slots here. So this is from last year, so there's some players on here that may not be here anymore. Diego Campos, Elliot Collier, Michael DeLue, Raheem Edwards, Nico Hassler, Alex Katai, Manu Nikolic, Bastian Schweinsteiger, and also three more who didn't count against slots: Mo Adams, Nico Del Greco, and Luis Solaniak. So take out some of these players.
No more Lucho.
Yep.
And who knows what Del Greco is?
He's
We literally
technically
only
still
have Marcelo.
on
We have like
contract.
Marcelo, Corrales, Lillard, that homegrown we just signed, but right, he's going back to college, right? Who's our right backs? We have Hassler and
Raheem.
Raheem.
Hopefully he can get a green card because if you think about it, he's played for 2 Canadian teams and is a Canadian. This is really going to be his first full season with the Fire, right? They've traded for him. So
Yeah, I don't know if he'd be able to apply for a green card yet. I'm just thinking, in terms of actual government stuff, not even just soccer stuff. It's going to be hard to get a green card right now with the
Government shutdown.
shutdown.
The government shutdown. That is funny. That is funny.
I mean, I hate it when politics has to move
Yeah.
into soccer, but that is something that's definitely an issue right now for
Mm-hmm.
a team.
Yeah, and you know what? Segueing back into the roster, it really does grind my gears that, I have up on the screen here, Chicago Fire Soccer Club to open 2019 preseason schedule in Spain, and that's going to start, I believe, January 23rd, and it's 15 days long. And it's eerily similar to last season going into the preseason, except I think last season we had lack of starters, but we had our fair share of subs and reserves. This year we lack a whole back line. I think up top it looks kind of promising. If Frankowski is coming, if Katai, Georgie, Dax, Schweinsteiger, and Nico up top, I mean that's kind of nice. But then you only have Marcelo, and you're still missing the back line, the rest of the back line, and the goalkeeper. So. And not only that, but we don't even have depth or reserve guys. Like you just went through the roster, we are just thin. So it's like we're even further behind than we were last year.
I just don't understand how we think that we're going to be able to compete right now. I'm just thinking of what we're going to do, how we're going to play 11v11 like for preseason games.
That's funny you said. Well, they could bring homegrowns up. I mean,
trialists are going to be
trialists.
coming.
Yeah, we'll see the first. We'll see the batch of trialists.
You really can't pick up anybody over in Spain for the 2 weeks that you're going to be there because those are going to take up international slots.
Who were the trialists they signed last year?
Oh, let's
Corrales,
bring home
Ellis.
Maybe they bring home Carlos Gil, who's waiting in Spain.
That's a rumor.
We could bring back Albert Ruiz as a trialist again, but whatever.
Didn't he just leave?
He signed in Spain, actually. He's in like 3rd, 4th division, which is sad.
Oh, but I know it just I just can't believe that we still do not have. I mean, preseason is so important. It's where the lads come together. They grind through all the fitness tests and learning the system, and we don't even have guys to build chemistry together. And Pono can't instill a system, so it's just delaying what we need for this season.
I remember like 3-4 years ago when Yallop had first started, and he brought in like Iggy, he brought in Akam, and he had that first full preseason with them, and then we didn't perform that season, and he said it's because the guys didn't gel, and so we had that next preseason, and they still didn't perform, so we fired Yallop, and that's when. And that's when we got Nelson.
In comes Nelson, yeah. So, I don't know. And what's the rumors right now? So we have Frankowski coming in, apparently. Like we said, Ojeda, who knows? Urania's gone. There's always rumor of a Mexican international. Like, who does everyone want? Hector Moreno?
Hector Moreno is on the transfer books. We have a question here from Jorge. How long does it normally take for a player to get their green card?
Honestly, I don't know.
Can we Google that?
It depends on. I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know that money is involved. It depends on how much. Like if you pay for an expedited green card. I know that Josef Martinez and Nico came into the league at around the same time, and Martinez already has his green card, I think.
Oh wow. Yeah, and so. No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, so I don't really know quite what the exact numbers are. All I know is that it seems like the Fire aren't really pushing for expedited green cards.
Most players get I got the information. Most poor players get, and this is from an article from DirtySouthSoccer.com. Most pro players get an EB1A green card reserved for an alien of extraordinary ability. Think Tito, not Superman, it says. This type of green card is reserved for people who are recognized as exceptional in their professional field within the arts, sciences, and sports. The process.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah, the process begins once compiled. Blah 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 blah. What is it saying?
All right, you just keep looking it up. All right, yeah. Someone just asked about Urania. He's gone. He went to Costa Rica, some team I believe called Saprissa. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, Saprissa. I'm trying to think. I think it was either them or Alajuelense, who was the team that beat the Chicago Fire in the Champions League the one year that we made it.
The answer is a few months. It says a few months for an expedited green card.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
And that's expedited. A normal green
That's crazy.
card takes a while.
Another comment from Jorge was, I can't wait to see all that allocation money play. He was our biggest pick of the draft this year. Wait, Urania is gone to where, you guys said. Your Jorge comments to Saprissa. And yeah, so.
Yep.
But we got some other news. Let's break into this.
Sure.
I mean, we got a whole.
Jigs, you want to talk about our draft picks real quick? Do you know anything about Mark Forrest? Or Grant Stoneman? Or Ebenezer Akan?
That's one of the things that I've seen recently is that there's been a lot of players taken that, like, the combine doesn't matter. And that's basically, since I'm not able to watch all the college games, look around at all the colleges, it's very hard for me to find it.
Oh, okay.
So when there's players on the table that I have scouted and I say are very good, and we don't pick them, that's when I get frustrated. It's not just that, they didn't pick somebody who I wanted them to pick. It's that they deliberately just kind of aren't doing what they can do. And especially with these picks, they look like they're instantly sending them back over to, I think it's Lansing now that we have as our affiliate.
And Indy as well. I think we have two.
Indy's the higher level.
Yeah,
Indy's the higher one. We're sending these to Lansing because they just don't look to be a part of our pro setup. And I'm just really looking at the whole thing that we traded away our first round and the second round picks. We were all there. There were fans there. There were people there who were banned from the stadium who still showed up to try to support their new player, and we didn't get that new player.
About those second round picks, or rather the third and fourth round picks, during a recent podcast interview that Nelson went on, he did say he would be drafting with Indy and with Lansing in mind, or at least have those coaches or executives in the room or on board or on phone to potentially, if there was not value for the Fire, to potentially draft value for them. And I like that route because that's potentially facilitating maybe a longer-term relationship with these two clubs, which might, end up with a bona fide USL team link for the Fire to depend on eventually in the future, rather than sending kids to Tulsa and not being in control. Maybe the Fire can eventually get some sort of ownership or
Well, imagine if guys like Drew Connor, Grant Lillard were playing somewhere. But my take on the draft though, real quick, is I really don't mind it because I think it's a big change of direction because Nelson has built this team upon draft picks throughout his tenure here. And so this is very out of the ordinary that he sold them all. And so it's definitely different. So I thought it was shocking because, again, think about last year, how many guys were draft picks. Polster, Vincent, I believe Campbell was. I mean, we have a lot of draft picks, and he traded them. So I thought that was very strange for Nelson to do that, just a change of character.
I think he said it before. I think it was Pano who said it about wanting to be unpredictable on draft day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just with what's going on. We have made good picks in the past. I'm going to be honest. This year was not a good draft class. I looked through it, and pretty much everyone agreed that it was not a good draft class. And somebody in the chat, Chad, just mentioned about Philly. And Philly, I think, did an amazing job. What they did was right. What the Fire did was not right. And here's why. Philly has an academy that they trust trust, an academy that they love, one that they will go to and players will want to come to their team. They have a starting lineup that will be able to play. Even if they may not be that good, they have a starting lineup that will be able to play. And the Fire do not have either of those things. We have academy players who do not want to come here. And we have no back line. We have like 3 players signed who could play on the back line. That's it. We don't have a starting 11. That's why we need cheap domestic players. You get that through the draft. Yes, they may not be that good, but you just need warm bodies.
That's a good take. And then think about them letting Drew Connor go and Campbell walk. You know, they probably, I mean, I don't know, but I can't imagine them costing too much money to retain. And they're American, so and they're on the back line. So it's like, why didn't you keep guys like that? So the roster's so barren of, again, back line starters, and then besides for what, center, mid, and maybe striker, they don't really have any depth or reserves for those positions.
And the argument that we're going to use that allocation money to sign Frankowski, if we had the deal was broken during the draft, like right in the middle of it. I mean, right after the draft ended, somebody right next to me asked Nelson about Frankowski because we'd found out about it like in the second round. If they
wasn't happy about that.
Broke, he was not happy. He just walked right away. He just walked away from that question. He's not.
The Polish Jagiellonia is the journalist is the one who broke it.
Yeah, Yaga was the one who broke it. So that means if we were making deals with them already, that means we had the allocation money. That allocation money that we got from the draft, that's not going towards Frankowski. That's going towards probably something else. And we could have gotten a young, cheap, domestic defender. That's what we needed.
Well, the player that went in the 5th pick was Shinya Shiki.
Shinya Shiki, I think that was a bad deal by Colorado. They probably could have picked him up later, whatever. But the player there were like 2 defenders that I really liked, and I think that could have gotten taken in the first round. There was a defender in the second round that wasn't even picked that I think the Fire could have gotten in the second round. The first round guy, Akeem Ward, he got taken. Let's see, we traded down to the 15th pick. He got taken at the 14th pick. We could have taken him at 5. Colorado could have found some other way to get their guy. I think that we should have gotten Akeem Ward. He is a young, cheap domestic player. He was going to fill a spot on the back line. We needed a right back or a left back. We just needed a back, and we didn't get one.
And you know, my one comment is they've had some success drafting defenders in the super draft. So Polster, Vincent, Campbell was okay. I mean, so there's some success there. So yeah, like I said, it was a change of character from Nelson because he usually does rely heavily on the draft. So he has holes and he has to spend that money.
And that guy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
And that guy in the second round that ended up not even being drafted, Prosper Figby. He was in the combine, as I said. The combine doesn't really matter. But I thought he played absolutely amazingly for somebody who was just kind of thrown in there. And I was really surprised that everybody let him by. But then again, the draft doesn't matter. A lot of these teams already have their rosters full. And the problem is that the Fire took 3 players that were not going to help their first team when that is who was going to be needed. These other teams were just picking up players to pick up players, and at some point they decided we're going to pass because we can't even fit any of them. Yeah. We have so much space. Pick up someone.
They grabbed that Toronto kid who's a homegrown, right? Toronto, correct? No, Red Bull. I think we got that designated player.
You're talking about the homegrown player that we got from Red. Not a homegrown player. The Red Bull and Red Bull 2.
It was homegrown.
A Red Bull homegrown player who was a striker. Who scored about 11 goals in USL last year. Is apparently pretty decent, young, 23. So but that's not going to be a starter for you. That's like a reserve spot. That's what Joey Calistri was supposed to be. By the way, each of the last 3 drafts, Nelson has executed at least 3 trades.
Heard that earlier.
He likes trading for the sake of trading. That's his thing. He hasn't gone through a single draft without making a trade. I'm not even gonna check my facts on that. I'm fairly certain I am right. He has not gone through a single draft without trading.
There's certainly a good question here about whether or not he got great value for his draft picks, but the fact of the matter is the value of the draft was changed tremendously when Union went and traded 5 picks for $200K.
The value of the draft is very subjective.
Yeah.
It's very much about, it depends on what team you are. For Philadelphia, this draft meant nothing. And for a lot of teams, this draft meant nothing. For the Fire, it should have meant something to us to get young, cheap, domestic players.
And it's scary because now we might have to rely, like we did last year, on trialists like Ellis and Corrales. We might have to try more trialists. Of course, sometimes it works. And then we might have to trade for.
These are not MLS.
And then we might have to trade for throwaway guys. I mean, that's not the right word, but like a Tony Chani. They were ready to give him another try somewhere else. So another player like that. And
Will Johnson.
I don't want to build. I don't want to build a team like that. Like you said, it is an opportunity. But they did put it in. Get some allocation money for it. So we'll see if they put that somewhere. But again, your argument is that they still need to build a roster, and that was a good opportunity too. So
I think that's the biggest way to think about how this roster is going to be built is look at how MLS media is covering it. Not people like us who are fans who are following this very closely and understand the team. How people who kind of vaguely follow this team are looking at it. They think that we are in a win now mode. They think that we're going to be making the playoffs. We still have Bastian Schweinsteiger. We still have Nemanja Nikolic. It looks to them like we're trying to win now. So it seems like Nelson is going to be trying to fill that perspective, and unfortunately, he's doing that in such the wrong way, and he's
really not
throwing
doing
everything
anything.
away.
Why did we got a question in the chat. Why did Fire get rid of Goosens?
Oh my God, that was
I don't think that's
Injury prone.
I don't think that was a bad move to move on from an injury-prone player like Goosens, severely injury-prone. A decent, total footballer nonetheless, but still, the best ability is availability.
Yeah, they've let a lot of guys walk. Again, I always bring up Drew Connor. Again, I don't know why he didn't come back. Again, that's another thing that doesn't help the homegrown relationship. I mean, they just let a lot of these guys walk. I mean,
I think there was something in the draft that was interesting to me. A player that got picked, I think it was end of the first round, that we traded it was end of the first round there too, but we also traded a pick in the second round, and another guy got picked up who I think it's basically the same exact thing. That first round pick that was drafted, Ryan Sarakovsky to Portland. Why did he go to Portland specifically? Larry Sunderland, his old academy director, is at Portland. He is the academy director for Portland. He told Portland staff, hey, this guy's good. You should be picking him up. And they did. The Fire, Nelson does not trust the academy that was coached by Larry Sunderland. Drew Connor was coached by Larry Sunderland. Joey Calister was coached by Larry Sunderland. It just seems like he does not like Larry Sunderland. And a lot of these players are saying, I know there are a few academy players that I know personally that didn't exactly like Larry Sunderland as a person, but they liked those people there. They don't want to play for the Fire because of what they did to everyone that was at the academy at that time.
And you also got to think about, and Pauno's also, involved here too, because he's the one filling out the starting 11 and deciding who's getting minutes. I mean, and you think about the short leash a lot of these young guys have had.
No leash at all.
Georgie finally is having a long extended, shot at it, but due to injury, he missed some time. We saw Brant Bronico get some minutes, Campos,
Young guys do get
but you still never saw Drew, Campbell, Lillard. There's still some guys that weren't developed.
Class of players that Pauno does not like. It's just a very specific class of players, and I don't know.
Daniel Johnson was also in the doghouse at the end of the year.
At the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of homegrowns traveling, which brought that little spur on, Polster to the Rangers is not quite done, but apparently Steven Gerrard, Stevie G, is waiting on Polster's signature. What's going on there is the captain of Rangers and one of their best players is also a right back. So Polster's looking at a substitute position there.
No, he's not going to play right back. He's going to be holding midfielder again.
Whoa!
That's his natural position.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, whoa.
Oh, that's crazy. I did not know that. I don't know that.
It's his natural
you knew
position.
that.
It's
You knew
because
that.
Well, that's
kept
what he
getting
came
played
in
out of
at.
position.
I thought he came in as a center back, though.
No, he came
No.
as a center back, center defensive mid.
He came in as a holding mid.
Okay. No, I believe you. Sure.
And
then,
and as for Gutman has not yet signed for Celtic, but apparently that is, or Celtic, that is in the works as well too. We've been reporting that for the past. A lot of these deals have been held up for, it seems like, for a week or two. It's the middle of January. I wonder if they're trying to get more money, squeeze as much more money as out of these deals while the window's still open. And then next week we're gonna start seeing a lot of deals close down or settle up.
Yeah, and it stinks letting those two guys walk because, those types of fullbacks don't just grow on trees. I mean, those guys that can be two-way and be defensive and offensive and very smart and creative attackingly when they attack. So they just don't grow on trees. So it's where are they going to go with now? So it's probably going to be Hassler and Edwards. And what do you think, Jake?
Gutman
Do you think?
got lowballed by the Fire.
Yeah, but do you think Edwards and Hassler can hold down the fullback spots?
I don't know if Hassler's coming back. There was that rumor that happened a little while ago. We haven't heard anything about it since.
I have.
About him
I have.
Going, oh, you?
I have. I saw a tweet, actually tweeted out, it looked like by his agency or something, saying, Nico Hassler's going back to America to train with the Chicago Fire. And as far as confidence as Hassler, your right back, I'm looking for a starter. He's an excellent replacement level right back that, is serviceable for half of the season. But if you're relying on him for half of a season, that's not great. Where does this guy play? Is he a right mid? Is he a center mid? This guy's like an ultimate reserve player to me. He can play in any position. To me, he should be one of your super subs. Raheem at left back is not. It just can't happen as well. Yes, he's pacey, but maybe it should happen because he lacks some of the touch needed to play a real attacking left winger. And really, Katai and Frankowski got to be your wingers.
Yep.
If we play a 5-man backline, I would be completely fine with Nico on right wing back and Edwards at left wing back. But then again, we'd need 3 starting center backs.
Which we don't even have.
Yeah, and we have one.
We have a single starting center back, and we have another center back who apparently isn't as good as we first thought he was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
And we could have gotten a center back at least in the draft, and we didn't.
Yeah. That.
Well, there really hasn't been much rumbles aside from Marcelo coming out of nowhere. I mean, there really hasn't been any defender rumors. Hector Moreno, that's just one that's always out there, though. I mean, there really hasn't been other ones.
But I remember there was an interview with Nelson right after the draft, and he mentioned that he had 3 different players. He had a goalkeeper, he had a central defender, and he had an attacking midfielder that is not quite a 10. I think that was the words he was
So that's Frankowski.
That was Frankowski.
The goalkeeper, I thought it was one person. It probably is somebody else.
You don't think it's that German dude?
What?
You don't think it's that German dude? I thought it was a potentially German player.
I was thinking it's the opposite, actually. I thought it was somebody else completely different, and it probably is that person. And then the final person, I'm trying to think.
Center back Moreno.
Yeah, center back would be Hector Moreno. And I don't
Not
think
Pepe.
we're going to be getting him.
Hector Moreno, would be
Marcelo?
with Marcelo would be incredible. But again, so we'll see if this ever happens. Again, they're just rumors. But if they brought him in, hey, that would make me happy. So
But the big thing here is, I said this. I've been saying this. It's something that I've been going in on Big Soccer about how we are horrible at resource management with our international slots. We have players like Collier, who, yes, he may be getting his green card soon, but he shouldn't have been holding up an international slot at all for us.
Yeah,
and
exactly. That's why the Ojeda deal isn't going through. So we still have him on the roster.
Supposedly, that's why the Ojeda deal is not going through, because there's too many international players and not enough slots. But you don't have to be compliant until the season starts. So I don't know if that's really quite true. I just think that the Ojeda deal is.
Because
Look at Atlanta has 4 DPs. If you can't have a certain, they have 4 DPs. So you can't tell me that there's a max slot amount of international players you can sign before you have to jettison.
MLS changes the rules for teams that decide to go above and beyond.
True.
Atlanta has earned the right to have 4 DPs in the eyes of MLS. MLS will let them do that because
they deserve it.
Yeah, because they've gone out there and they did it.
Let's make a 4th DP happen.
The DP rule for David Beckham to go to LA Galaxy because LA Galaxy went out there and they did it. They have never changed the rule for the Fire, and that's because the Fire have never done anything that bold to change rules.
No, not until Hotman's gone.
Well, I kind of want to change gears here. One thing that has changed is the jersey sponsor. So I have the jersey launcher on the screen, and I think it's going to be Motorola, correct?
Lenovo sub company, but from Illinois, big time. I don't know if they're.
Hello, Moto.
And it's really funny. As soon as you hear about this deal, you see some advertisements for some new razors.
Yeah, so SeatGeek Stadium, Motorola is the jersey sponsor. So there's some change there.
In the words of Quavo on the song Minnesota by Lil Yachty, I love my Motorola. I love my Motorola. I love my Motorola. I love my Motorola.
I have no idea what song that is.
I posted like a 10-hour loop on Twitter as a joke. But it's fine. It's a good, solid company. I'd like to see what our new jerseys will look like with that. I would like to go to the jersey launch, but I probably won't be able to make it there. It's Tuesday. I don't know. I have classes.
Chad's reporting that Lenovo will be the logo on the jersey as they own Motorola.
Well, they might also put the name Motorola on there.
Well, Motorola is an Illinois company, so it certainly seems possible.
Because it looks like it's going to be Motorola that's on the jersey, not Lenovo. From what I'm hearing, it's going to be Motorola.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Motorola's an Illinois company. Like my grandma worked for them. Like it's.
Well, that's awesome. I did not know that was an Illinois company. I think that's kind of cool. James and I, we always were looking for what? Caterpillar or I think Binny's or
John Deere.
John Deere's in Illinois?
Oh, that's Iowa. That's like.
Oh, it's like Midwest.
Yeah, anything Midwest based,
Boeing,
of course.
I thought it has stuff here. Boeing.
Portillo's.
Benny's Bev.
Portillo's.
But the thing is with it, it's just like it sounds like this is the movements of Mansueto. Mansueto is the kind of person who would have the sort of connections within Chicago to be able to get someone like Motorola.
That's a really good point. You're right. This might be one of the first things Mansueto got his hands on, or at least that's evident to us that he got an Illinois company. That's a really good point.
I got on Madison or MacMile or whatever.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Good point.
That was him.
Speaking of the fourth DP, I got some news on Atlanta. I'll give you guys real quick here. Potentially, Hector Villalba might be on his way out to America, but that doesn't really affect their DP status. They bought him for about $1.5 million, and might be selling him for $6 million. Wow. The Almiron deal to Newcastle is on hold, hasn't happened yet.
I think Newcastle's selling the owner's selling his club. That's why.
That's possibility. Yeah. Newcastle fans, the Toons would love that if Mike Ashley sold the club. They've been begging for that if you ever watch True Geordie. But they're talking about potentially loaning Ezekiel Barco, as that would be the easiest DP to get off the books, because they could just basically loan his salary out to maybe a Mexican side.
And also there's some locker room issues with him too.
There's also locker rooms where he's taking people's girls.
I heard that Kaku might go to America.
Oh, also heard that Kaku might go to America. I heard that as well. To Club America. Pity Martinez to Atlanta is also kind of on hold. It seems like it happened, but like the clubs have it on freeze dry until Almiron gets sorted out. Mm-hmm. They really want to try and sell Almiron for like $30 million, but the thing is, what club is ponying up $30 million here at the mid transfer window, at the January transfer window? Not a lot of clubs. It's a small amount of clubs that would be ponying up $30 million for that type of player. And $30 million for Miguel Almiron? Do you think that? Do you viewers think that's great money spent on Miguel? I would spend maybe 15 on Miguel Almiron.
So expensive. Think about what was Fred bought for. He's playing for Shakhtar. I mean, the price of players right now is ridiculous.
What do you think Miguel Almiron is worth? Spitting fire, people. Comment.
I mean, players are expensive right now. So
Jimmy,
30 mil. I mean, I could see 30 mil.
Not me.
I could say 30.
They can't hear me because I don't have the mic. But viewers, what do you guys think of Almiron? What would you rate him at? 15 million, 20 million, 30 mil, 30 million for a great attacking cam who's a beast in the league. Obviously, the best player in the league for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But 30 million. I don't know. To me, I might take 20 million.
Well,
I'm just looking. So taking this to a more general place in terms of Major League Soccer and all that, I know that they were talking about wanting to make MLS a selling league, and I don't really know how I want to feel about that, because it doesn't seem like it's something that's going to help us too much in terms of, look, I care about the Fire. That's pretty much all I care about. And
18 mil is probably right. Probably right. But I mean, they're probably going to try. I mean, they're probably just going to aim a little bit higher than that. But 18 mil sounds
Well,
right.
let Jiggly finish his thought here.
yeah, it's just that I think as the Fire, we are going to want to buy young players. And as long as they're young, good players, I want to have them on the team. And if we can make a profit off of them when they need to move on,
Frankowski.
sure.
Like
But
Frankowski.
the problem for us right now is that other teams are doing it much better than us. Other teams have a much better scouting network than us.
They got a better system in
Yeah.
place. They have a second team and a first team, a second team that they could cultivate some of these guys.
Exactly. A second team that they can sit on and be like, okay, here's how you learn our system. Here's development. Basically, we need better development. We need better everything. Why do I always go into like, well, there's some specific things that we can do. We need to fix everything.
We're screaming into the chasm, it seems like.
And you just alluded to, Mansueto is, starting to get his hands on some things. So maybe
Not going to make
eventually,
waves,
death by a million paper cuts, he can get us out of here and into the promised land again. But, we definitely need more input from him. And hopefully, we need him to do some things at that level, and then we need players. I mean, we need players. So we got to see where we go from that. I have Nico's tweet up here. So there's always speculation about Nico being traded, right? And he says, I'm back in Chicago. My third MLS season is coming up soon, and I hope some similar, memorable, and emotional moments are waiting for me and the fans.
Golden
Chicago
boot.
Fire, see you soon.
Golden boot. Golden boot. Let's
It
go
all
for
depends on who's passing to him and how he's going to get the ball. I still don't know whether I want him to be traded or not. I don't know how well you can tank in a soccer league. In NBA, you tank and you get a great player in the draft. In NFL, you tank and you get a great player in the draft. In the NHL, you tank, you get a great player in the draft that ends up playing in 2 years instead of the next year.
The markets
But
are
whatever.
totally different for those sports, though, because all the best players are in America. All the best players for those
Yes.
sports are in America.
All
Meanwhile,
the best
soccer is a
players
world
come
sport
from college there.
where the development is
us.
just lagging behind.
For us, I don't know what we can do right now to try to at least prepare this team to get better. We can be in a rebuilding position, but we do not look like we want to be in a rebuild. And it's very hard to really define what a rebuild is in an MLS sense, because yes, there is a draft, but that draft doesn't matter as much anymore as it has back in 2011 was probably 2011 through 2015. I'm going to call it right now. The best years of the draft. I don't know who was picked. I forgot. But it's just, the draft has lost so much meaning because of homegrowns and because other teams besides
In
the
Europe,
Fire.
players going to Europe.
Players going to Europe. Other teams other than the Fire are going through and making great academy decisions. FC Dallas is doing amazing with their academy. New York Red Bulls has an amazing second team set up so that they can feel confident when drafting that they don't need to put them on the first team right away. They can actually develop these players. You've got Philadelphia, who's got an amazing academy. You got Atlanta, who's got probably one of the best academies for some weird reason, one of the best academies in the U.S. And here's the Fire, sitting on a gold mine that is the third largest market in the United States. We are in
Soccer haven, too.
To get,
Soccer gold mine over here, too.
yeah, it's
Soccer
just
player
that
gold mine. Guzan,
We can-
McBride. There's so many.
Yeah.
Spectre,
Yeah.
Man United. I mean, right now I just want to pause for station identification real quick, by the way. Thanks for always tuning in there, folks. Thanks for always tuning in there, folks. Toss us a like if you enjoyed the conversation. Toss us a like if you enjoyed Jiggly. Just take a moment. We always appreciate the like. It just lets us know that, the work we're doing here is appreciated. And hit that bell button to subscribe and Well, no, you hit the bell button so you can get notified of our live streams because that's how we're doing it now. But all right, let's unpause. Game on.
Well,
and appreciate the likes and let us know. Anyway,
So
and all
time
your
back
comments.
in, MLS is scared to go into the city.
Oh, you're talking about Chicago? Are we bringing this up now? You talking about the stadium?
I'm still going on about academies and all
Oh,
that.
the academy. Yeah, and you're right. There are this should be a hotbed of talent. It should also be a hotbed of viewership, and we're not really accessing it right now. So, but apparently,
Read it.
but apparently, kicking out the most loyal fans is most
important than taking advantage of the gold mine we're sitting on. And yeah, that's not how
that's a
you
zinger
build
for
a
sure.
community.
There's so much divide at the top. He's just got so many hats that he's twirling. He's got so many plates that he's twirling in addition to the 2 hats that he's got to wear at different times because you can only twirl those plates when you got that one hat on. But he's got to take the hat off by the plates in the air. And it's just no gravity. And he's got to go twirl these plates. He's got way too much stuff going on. Nelson needs to be let go at one of his positions. But
I don't even think he's juggling anything right now. He's just flailing like he's got a bunch of plastic balls and he's kind of just slapping them around, and some of them are staying up.
And you know what? And we're talking a lot about Nelson, and we haven't talked a lot about Pauno. So we'll see what he's going to do this year.
In terms of academy,
and so
we shouldn't even be talking about Pauno. If we're talking about academy, we should be talking about that one guy that Nelson brought in, and we haven't heard anything from since he got hired. I don't remember hearing anything about him actually working within the academy. I haven't heard about him even making it to the academy. It's just, I don't even know if he's even in America right now. Like, it's just
might be scouting, might be part of the the extra scouting team, try and get his extra eyes
inside the city. MLS is very scared to go into the city because nobody wants to go in the city. Like, it's just a weird thing that they want to go for the suburbs, and there's plenty of talent in the suburbs. But if we want to truly build the best, if we want to find some of the best athletes, there are plenty of players who are playing in like semi-pro leagues who are like, maybe only
the Jamie Vardys
16,
of America.
Not even Jamie Vardy. I'm talking like 16-year-old kids who like their parents don't have enough money for a job. Like their jobs don't pay enough money to help their family, so they play semi-pro on the side so that they can get at least a little bit of money to help their family. And we can't get those players because if they leave, then suddenly their family doesn't get help. We can go and do something. We could do something amazing for the community and amazing for our team at the same time. The Plays Academy, that's one of the few things that Nelson has done that's amazing because it's helped the community. I want something that can do both at the same time, being able to create a better community using soccer and using that to be able to make our team better.
Those are great points, but that starts with the Fed. That starts with the FA. The English FA have figured out. They had 200 years. People say, "Oh, they've had 200 years at this." But here's the thing. They started at a place and they got there. USA has started at a place and has gone backwards. And we got to start moving forwards again. And we got to get promoted. The Federation, US Federation needs to get promotion relegation going because then those guys who are at those semi-tiers are getting paid a little bit more. Then there's a pathway all of a sudden. Then the better teams are getting paid. And then there's then the pathway is there. The pathway is just not there in America. The pathway is there in other sports, but the pathway is so broken in America. It's a big problem. And one big thing that did happen that I wanted to cover last too, Joseph Martinez staying in MLS, re-signing for a 5-year deal with Atlanta, saying that they are his Real Madrid, his Barcelona. What do you guys think of that? I think that's a great move, great thing for MLS, bad for Joseph Martinez.
Yeah, maybe similar with Almiron. They just want a lot of money for him, and no one met the value. So, that's. What do you think, Jakes?
I think it's that he likes it there, and that's the point. That's what you always want when it comes to a player.
He broke records.
Want to have. Mm-hmm. They enjoy playing there. They like the people there. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you make your team a spectacle the way that Atlanta has, I mean, you look at, they've got the entire Atlanta rap community goes to Atlanta United games, not the entirety of it, but like a lot of prominent prominent people go to their games. Who goes to Fire games? We do.
Who?
We're not exactly important.
We do. We do. Who goes to Fire games? Just we do.
Yeah.
You're right. There is no like real big famous
There's
people.
no
They're not.
spectacle to the Fire. There's no spectacle.
There's nothing to draw you, and they got Bastian Schweinsteiger, but they have not capitalized on it. They sent him to a Blackhawks game, they sent him to a Bulls game, but they have not capitalized on that. There should be guys coming out here like Patrick Mahomes going to see KC play. Sporting KC play.
And they didn't capitalize on the 17 season of that success. So, they definitely missed the mark.
I mean, the Red Stars have done better. The Red Stars, you know how, oh man, why am I blanking on his name now? The Blackhawks,
Rocky Wirtz? Rocky Wirtz? Oh, Jim Cornelison.
Yes, Jim Cornelison. The Red Stars got him before the Fire did. The Red Stars had him sing at a game.
That's crazy.
The Red Stars had the U.S. women's hockey team that won the gold medal come to their game.
Wow.
The Fire, who has the Fire brought in even at the smallest level like that? The smallest level, they have not brought anybody interesting to the games. They have not done anything. They haven't done anything on the field. They haven't done anything off the pitch. They haven't done anything.
They did bring in Cornelison for a game last season. And it was epic. Some people were, you could cry when Corey Nielsen's singing the national anthem. It's incredible. It is a spectacle in itself.
I want to ask you guys this. James, what are you expecting out of Pono this season?
Not much with with what he's got.
Just like last year.
Here's the thing. When you look at him tactically, it's just, what can you expect from him? I expect a hodgepodge of different things thrown at a wall, see what sticks. Even if it sticks, let's pick it off the board and throw it at a different spot and see if it sticks there too.
Mm-hmm. No,
Wooden spoon.
Wow, Jigs, you're calling it?
I don't know if we're going to break the DC United record for the least points in a season, but
whoa, you're calling it that low? Whoa.
I got to say, though, Pono can win us back. Yeah. Pono puts together a string, starts off the season, even going 500, maybe a game over 500. I think that would be a success. Just a game over 500 for the first 8 games. I think that would be a fair result, because right now we don't have a back line. We don't even have a team to deal with. We don't have a starting goalkeeper. We don't have a starting left center back. We don't have a starting left back. We don't have a starting right back. We do have 2 defensive mids who occupy the same space and cause tactical problems because they want to occupy the same space. So we got to figure out that hole still with Basti and Dax. And we have Georgie, who we got to have playing. Brant Bronico is not going to play. He's not going to play, though, because one of those 3 guys got to play, right? And then Katai, Frankowski, Nico. So up top, there is some talent with Frankowski, Nico, Katai. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And with Georgie up there, wow, that actually seems like some attacking talent. When you start going back, you got Basti and Dax back there. Okay, I'm still feeling good. Then you get to the entire back line, which is just it's a shotgun blast of holes.
Yeah, and then it's just Marcelo, and then we said this earlier, left backs, other center back, right back, and goalie. And so God, they just really, 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 really need to bring in defenders.
Atlanta's front office is Bocanegra, ex-Chicago Fire player. Plus
the
Atlanta's
entire front office at the draft. I was talking to them. I had a nice time talking to Jim Curtin, because he was back there with Philadelphia because they legally had to be at the draft. But he was hanging out with the Fire fans who were in the front row. We were talking to him. We were talking to Armis. We were talking to CJ. We were talking to all of these ex-Fire players, and it's like, why aren't you here?
It makes no sense. It really makes no sense that a lot of these good Fire people are not with this organization. Yeah, it makes zero sense.
Shocking. It is shocking, because you could look
Mansueto,
at other sports.
Step up and make this a world-class organization that holds on to its family.
Well, and then you can look at other sports teams do it. Just think of sticking with the Blackhawks. Look how many guys they bring back, and they stay internal. So, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird that you see all these guys leave.
Between something like the Blackhawks or something like the Edmonton Oilers, who have had issues in the past with former players, with people who've been with that team for a long time, and it's just not going well for them because of those people.
Taylor Hall.
But bringing back players in an ambassadorial role. I think that Frank Klopas is the best person that we can have up in the box. because he's
Yeah.
a former Fire player.
Love Klopas. Love
Klopas is
Klopas.
great. Klopas is great.
Great
Yeah.
club representative, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's just about the season. It's just we as fans. I'm going to go into my philosophical part now. We as fans, being the fan of a soccer team or any sort of sports team is completely an absurd idea. The idea that you give your life to an idea that doesn't even mean anything. You provide the meaning, basically. The fact that you are there, that is what the meaning is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the only thing that we can ever want out of a season is to not look stupid. And so when you have the entirety of your fan base
Not
saying,
last season.
you look stupid and you are going to make all of us look stupid, and to people who at this point are being tossed away by the team saying you don't make us matter.
You're selling a product that makes you feel stupid for buying it, for supporting it, for valuing it, because no one else does. No one else sees the value in this club like maybe the 6,000 Fire fans that come out, regularly, and the maybe another 8,000 that kind of keep tabs on them. But the numbers are small.
Do you guys think if Frankowski goes through and let's say someone like Hector Moreno goes through, do you think that will bring fans immediately to the stadium?
It will not bring people back. It will bring in new people who only have heard of Hector Moreno, or new Polish fans who may have heard about the Fire from the good old days and are like, oh, this might be interesting, I guess. I don't think it brings back fans. This isn't something that's going to bring back fans.
Someone said something. What did they say? Not at
I was
all.
jiggling.
Not at all.
Oh.
I got some. We're going to start wrapping it up here. Getting close to the end, but maybe got a couple more minutes left. Maybe got 5-10. I don't know. We're in no rush, but we'll see.
Dinner time.
But all the same, I got a couple things just to mention here. Mickey Turner, go take a look at him on Twitter. You'll find him real easy. I need that up.
The atmosphere.
Go find Mickey Turner on Twitter. He's had an excellent live stream, a live podcast that he put out a couple days ago or yesterday, maybe today, about his about this legal case that's ongoing with the Chicago Fire, which we'll get into a second here.
Oh God!
A couple months.
I've known about that case for a while.
Oh yeah.
I was just waiting for it to come out.
Mickey Turner, though, he might recognize the name from when he wrote an article about the Chicago Fire lease situation a couple, maybe half a year ago or so, or earlier, or maybe it was last year entirely. But basically, what it comes down to is that no MLS has to have a team at Bridgeview they can't play any other team in MLS within 75 miles. So that's even up to Milwaukee, outskirts of Milwaukee.
Oh wow.
Within Bridgeview. So Milwaukee would have issues with getting an MLS team without having a team in Bridgeview. The revenue streams have been decimated over the years. The product is horrible, which we know. They financed a $96 million stadium, or with like a $96 million stadium. It cost about that much to build. It's ballooned to $200 million. $200 million of debt for the city of Bridgeview, thanks to some bad, shoddy,
out of this deal too.
Shoddy businessship by the previous administration. It might have been the governor, or not the governor. Or not the governor, the mayor.
Mayor.
Yeah, the previous mayor, but basically made a bad deal. It's gone real belly up from $90 million to $200 million.
Yeah,
and then MLS is also angling to get out of there. It's a depreciating asset. It's got horrible revenue streams around it. It's not really nothing there. It's barren. It's hard to get to for the majority of Chicago. And
they never built that water park.
They never built. There's a lot of things that they didn't build around there. That'd be nice if if the Three Rabbits Brewery is maybe a little bit closer. That'd be nicer if there was a couple other breweries and maybe places to go during, before, after, to watch Fire games. It'd be nice if there was like a behind the back grill. Had some Chicago flair, something Chicago. I don't know. Chicago. I don't know. Chicago Fire are just like. There's no connection to the city of Chicago except the name Chicago Fire. It's just there's no connection to the city.
We still have the badge. The badge is still good.
But so it's a $90 million asset, about $200 million on, and so Bridgeview is in a world of hurt. And so getting the MLS and the Fire out of Bridgeview is going to be a hard task. And one of the ways that it could be facilitated is as if with this new TV deal, potentially, MLS ponies up 90 million, 100 million to buy out the lease as part of moving them out to a different stadium, to maybe a new stadium, maybe to Soldier Field, maybe a joint issue with Soldier Field changing down the line. Maybe McCaskies want to update and make it a Super Bowl viable stadium. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be options later down. But it starts with $100 million plus buyout from Bridgeview. And even then, Bridgeview is going to be in a world of hurt. Even with that money, because that doesn't pay off their ballooning debt.
Everybody wants to get out of Bridgeview.
Even Bridgeview.
The Fire want to get out of Bridgeview. MLS wants to get out of Bridgeview. Bridgeview wants to fire out. The Red Stars probably want to get out of Bridgeview too. If the Fire are moving out and getting a new stadium, they'll probably want to go to that stadium inside the city. It's just, no one likes it. No one wants to be there. And the only reason why it was there is because it was the best option at the time. Everyone always forgets this, and we can talk about how bad it currently is right now, but at the time, it was a great deal. It was,
Wasn't it one of the first stadiums of its kind in the MLS?
One of the first soccer-specific stadiums, because that was back in the day where they're like, we want to have stadiums that are only for soccer, because MLS wanted to feel special about themselves. One of the first
soccer-specific stadiums. That's a good point.
Yeah, and so, with soccer-specific stadiums, that some of the best teams in the league do not play at soccer-specific stadiums. Atlanta fills.
New York City.
NYCFC. I don't know if they fill Yankee Stadium anymore, and they are trying to get out of there too. But the two specific stadiums that I'm thinking of are Atlanta,
Seattle,
where they play, and Seattle.
Yeah.
All right, now I got to handle this with a little bit of tact here, because now we're going to get into the fan issue. There's a fan, Abraham Calderon or something like that, I believe. If you can confirm that, Jiggly, I'm not sure, but is suing the Fire, maybe the police people for.
Oh wait, somebody's talking about what happened with Jorge said apparently AEG gave Wilt an ultimatum back then. I believe it wasn't AEG, it was the Parks District. The Chicago Parks District basically said, you are not going to be able to play at Soldier Field this coming year. You're going to have to find a new stadium.
Wow.
And so AEG and Wilt needed to build a new stadium right then. And they were looking around for a while, and Bridgeview was just the only place that would have them. Mayor Daley didn't want the team in there because, what the hell is MLS back in 2006?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Just getting Beckham kind of settled.
You saw what happened with the that development. Also, the alderman vetoed the proposal of having the stadium there.
Well, apparently it might work out. I don't know. Whatever. With Chicago, you've got to talk to the right people and pay the right people.
You got to grease those pockets. It's just like New York. The reason New York housing is so expensive, everybody's got to get paid. Same thing in Chicago. You got to grease the right pockets. Let me dive right back.
We can move on now.
Let me dive back into the little bit of the fan issue. I don't know if it had to do with Sector Latino. This is all allegings. But there's an ongoing court case. James Vlachis is the pro bono attorney, I believe. It has to do with a May 20th incident with Houston, and I don't know, there may have been some sort of altercation, and this may have played into the Sector Latino ban that resulted later. Somewhat. So there's, apparently some hints of maybe there's been charges of discrimination somewhat. The fan was arrested and banned, possibly wrongfully, as this is being alleged by the lawsuit. The Fire organization did nothing to help the investigation. In fact, they may have both inflamed it and kind of hindered it. They didn't provide subpoenaed videos, and also may have deleted security videos from the incident in the day in question specifically to kind of scrub it. So that's possible. This is all alleged in the document. The video, according to Mickey Turner, an attorney who has experience with these types of things, I would actually give his podcast a listen because he's got a much better grasp of it than we do, and hence I wanted to handle this as delicately as possible. But the video does not show evidence backing up officers' claims of potential striking an officer, and then may have filed a false police report. So this goes higher and higher and higher with issues, apparently, because if they're trying to falsely convict an innocent man. There's issues there, integrity, blah blah blah. Fire employee had film 2 that was not provided, even though subpoenaed.
Oh, they're calling it the MLS super agent, whatever.
They said that they didn't feel like they had to, like they should help this person, which is to me is concerning to hear that the fire organization is like, we don't want to help our fan and potentially an innocent person. We don't want to help an innocent person. Potentially, that's what I'm hearing. It's like that's kind of the weird mixed message I'm getting from this. It's like they could have helped essentially ended this sooner, but chose not to.
I've said before that they were just kind of looking for a reason, and they got their reason.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. So prosecutor dropped the case since there was no evidence of police battery. The police battery charge was dropped. This has happened. So now that's why the countersue is coming on for against the fire. That's where this is all stemming from, because they have this. So, and they also may have attempted to elicit a false confession. That's been asserted. So we'll see. The Mickey Turner says he recommended that the police officer be sanctioned. Blah blah blah. This police officer is like kind of the most exposed out of this case, legal wise, in his opinion, for attempting this. So that's maybe it might not go further than that. But safety issues are being claimed. Other issues are allowed to remain. There is other issues cited. I don't really want to talk about it. Yeah, you guys probably know. There's initials and stuff. It's all on The Athletic. I would just go to the Athletic article written by Mickey Turner, and I would listen to this podcast, which summarizes it very well.
It's behind a paywall, but I mean.
Well, Mickey Turner's podcast is not behind a paywall, and he will.
Podcast isn't.
So go check out his podcast. He wrote the article. You go to his website or go to his Twitter, Mickey Turner. Just look it up on CF97. Someone's probably got it posted. Highly recommend it. If the case survives the initial part, then the investigation will probably very much heat up with some real stuff coming on down the line for the fire. Depositions, emails, things would be coming out. But that's if it really gets to that level, supposedly.
And I think that it probably will. This is a bad case. I've heard plenty of things about it, and I'm really happy that something is being done in terms of actually looking into this. This is a very specific incident, but it's going to bring to light other things that we've been looking for. I mean, yes,
is this a fan witch hunt, or is this an actual investigation is the real question, Is this a fan witch hunt?
Initials guy. We all know who it is.
Yep, let's try and keep it there.
Initials guy. And, of course, there's things that you can bring up about, initials guy didn't have anything happen to him.
There's other event on the day, apparently with a Houston fan, too, that was in lockup. That may have been a worse offender.
That's the big part. We don't need to focus on initials guy. Everybody on Twitter is making fun of it.
No, there's no reason.
When I don't like someone,
That's
I
unnecessary.
like to make sure that I don't give them any reason to hate me as well, so that they feel bad about the reasons why I hate them. Anyway.
No, we always want people to feel good about themselves as much as they can, right?
Yeah. But the thing is that we can talk about our own fans, but there's also issues that were being done by security at that game that they didn't do anything
Protocol
about.
might not have been followed.
Security was going after the Fire fans, not the Houston fans.
Well,
that was a big thing.
So that's a possible issue that's been alleged. So we don't really want to get too much deeper into it, because there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. So we don't want to speculate. We don't want to add any fuel to the fire. But it's certainly a topic that needed to be addressed and covered and at least talked about, because this is a huge issue.
I think that it's going to be very important to really watch this as it happens. Of course, I have my whole thing that I want to be doing, like my whole covering the fire, and this is just sort of perfect for me with my Sunderland Till I Die type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it's perfect, because it genuinely does bring out the whole thing that it has been this way for years, and now it's legally this way, where it's fans versus the front office in a battle for the club.
And it'd be awesome if we were Seattle fans and Seattle season ticket holders, because then we'd actually have a vote to get rid of this guy, because that's what they can do down in Seattle. They can hold a vote of no confidence. But that was not available in Chicago. Also, I heard that there's a FC Chattanooga or something opened up like their team. They started their team. They like made themselves like available to purchase the stocks, and they've been like selling. They've been selling like hotcakes. Jeffrey's about ready to can it up here. I have a very serious topic, even more so serious, I think, so than possibly more so serious. I don't know. They're both super serious, so it's really hard to say. But anyway, there was in the middle of summer, there was a huge investigation where the Ghana FA was exposed for potentially fixing things, taking bribes. One of the top guys was found out and by this huge investigator in Ghana. And one of his investigative sources was apparently assassinated over the week. Jesus. Was just like riding on his motorcycle and was gunned down. And this was a soccer journalist, and it wasn't the top guy. They don't really know what he looks like. He wears beads in front of his eyes, but it was apparently one of his journalists that reports to him.
Someone bought stock in
Chattanooga FC. Ooh, Chad did buy some stock in Chattanooga FC. So that's huge. Awesome. So that's a cool thing to hear about. But the serious subject here is that's terrifying. When that matter happened in the summer, I was worried about those people because that's some real scary stuff with the money, the background money that's going on in those paid games, paid off games.
I mean, we live in a country where there's a freedom of the press. It's something that, like, even normal journalism, I call it normal journalism, but, like, actual news journalism has to deal with, and they've been talking about it this past year about, political journalists getting killed. It happens in countries where soccer is a very serious thing. It happens there too. Mm-hmm. And so if you combine the two things, bad things happen.
Well, and how come we don't really hear too much about supposedly there's slave workers being building Qatar stadiums?
Oh yeah, no, nobody talks about that, but it's a thing.
Is that a real thing? Because that's a real thing. Why is nobody talking?
It's not quite slaves. It's that they take their passports and they can't leave.
Right. There's some weird working regulations that they take their passports, it sounds like it's hard to get back, it's hard to earn money, and there's a lot of deaths in building some of these things. So it's quite concerning. And it's also concerning that they have not suggested moving. That was originally suggested years back, potentially moving it away from Qatar for these abuses. But that has not happened.
Because people here just don't care that much about football. Yeah.
Because people here don't care much about that football in America. But, I mean, Europe.
They were discussing it. I mean, they'll probably end up having it down to the wire. I mean, we just had this year. It's 4 years out. They're going to try to see if they can do something about it. They have already had to, like, change schedules and everything about, like, well, we're going to have this in the winter now because it's going to be too hot. Mm-hmm. But whatever. With that, it's hard to say whatever about slave labor. But, I mean,
it's really hard.
Something that it's like, that's a major world soccer issue, but it's also a world issue outside of the world of sports. There's stuff about slave labor in Qatar anyway in the Middle East, but that's something I don't want to dig into.
Yeah, we don't dig it, but it's certainly just crazy thing. Oh wow! So we ran the gamut there, folks. There's quite the elaboration of topics there. Toss us a like if you enjoyed the conversation. I know it got a little heavy at points. So hit that subscribe button and hit the bell button really, so you can get notified for when we go live. That's really the key thing, rather than the subscribe button. We got a question here. I'd be psyched to have a club in Chicago where you can own stock, like in the Bundesliga or in Green Bay.
Or Green Bay, yeah, absolutely. And then you could be invested.
I remember that they tried to do.
Viewers, if you've got any last questions, fire them now. We're starting to close up shop.
Yeah. I remember that they tried to do something like that for Chicago, the NASL Chicago team, that they were going to maybe name the Sting. They had the Sting Trust, and then suddenly the Sting Trust vanished. I don't know what's going on, but then the NASL folded anyway, so it didn't matter.
So it didn't work out.
So I was looking at USL. USL is USL Championship, USL 1, USL 2. So they got 3 leagues. So they got it set up right there. I'm not sure if they got promotion relegation set up between the 3 leagues, but...
No. They don't.
But at least they got structure.
They're building a structure that will hopefully end up with promotion relegation. But then I think I don't know if I was talking to you guys about it, about how it's almost like they have all of these structures in place, and once expansion ends, that's going to be the point where they can be like, okay, now we can start trying to work our way into promotion relegation. But it's almost like.
But how does that happen when you have guys, companies, and billionaires buying in for a price. These guys have to buy in. So how would that ever incentivize them ever wanting promotion and relegation?
And then there's also the whole thing of like, well, it's expansion. You need to have control over players, so players don't get full free agency, and so it's almost
Seattle,
like
right?
we're
Seattle.
Expanding the insistence
the next
that
one?
Don
Austin.
Garber.
My
This
bad.
is my tinfoil hat moment for the day. Please let me have it.
Okay.
But it's almost like Don Garber keeps expanding the league so that the league can keep all of their whole like control over everything. It's almost like claiming emergency powers, that sort of thing. Like, oh, we're expanding, we're going to need to make sure we hold on to all this so that we can make sure, these teams get filled and everything. But, it's almost like it's not necessary.
It's artificial if you really think about it, because in England these clubs form, or they've been formed. And then they were, and they form at a certain level. They form at a certain level based on the money they buy in. But in America, you buy in for $150 million for MLS, which is just a ridiculous amount of money. That's just going to make it cost prohibitive to ever really bring in promotion relegation for America without paying off these people.
Okay, here's something that I genuinely care about that Jorge brought up. So Section 8 continue to support the team this year or continue the boycott. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the AGM tomorrow because of the snowstorm. I think that's going to be a major topic discussed there. I know that's a reason why, at least one person is running for the board, because we protested all last season. They weren't able to do anything, and there was nothing to be done. And it's very disheartening to try to say, we shouldn't go back, but there's also the whole history. If we're not there, another group of people is going to come in and they're going to start their own thing, and then the history will be forgotten.
Well, that's a good idea. I mean, not a good idea, but I've never thought about that before. I never thought about the vacancy and then them filling that spot. That would be crazy, but
there were people there, actually. If you saw it throughout the season, I don't know if you guys,
I remember seeing some people there for sure.
Yeah, but after a while, it starts filling in, and then there's people that start yelling, "Let's go Fire," and then suddenly that creates a supporters group, and it's almost like it's not there anymore.
Yeah, but I do think everyone should come back, because you know what, it hurts the players a lot too. I mean, playing for an empty stadium where there's no cheers and there's no energy. So, is it really fair for them?
I don't even know if the players truly it's very hard to get a read on these players, because I don't know if
to call in. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, what's the number to call in? If we could have that, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome if we had to call in. But just leave your comment there. We'll read it on. That's the best we can do right now. Just like the Metro Stars fans that left when they became the Red Bulls and went over to, they didn't go to NYCFC. Where did they go?
No, they just left, probably.
To Liga MX. Maybe Philly Union. Maybe DC. DC is something you could support now with Rooney, but you couldn't support it before.
I was making a joke about how I'm a Vancouver Whitecaps fan now because their table was right next to us, and we were joking around with them during the draft.
Did you hear the deal for Alphonso Davies? I think I heard $14 million with potentially to go to $22 million. That was what was paid for Alphonso Davies, or $11 million to $14 million, something like that.
Remember that Timmy Weah might go somewhere, but
he's going to Celtic.
Not Timmy.
Not Celtic. Celtic.
Yeah, no, Weston McKennie. I was thinking about Weston McKennie was rumored to Liverpool.
Yeah, that he was reported to go to Liverpool.
But most of the Red Bull fans and supporters today were barely fans when they were called Metro Stars. I don't know. Is that true of a lot of fans? Because maybe especially of the Atlanta.
It's hard to. Well, no, not that. I think it's more that what Jorge is trying to say there is that a lot of the people, when the team rebranded and changed everything about themselves, a lot of people left because they didn't like that they changed everything, and then new people came in, and suddenly those people that left were forgotten. So that's the issue that Section 8 has, that Sector Latino has, that if they just don't come to games anymore, there's going to be new people, and those people will forget about the history that Section 8 has. People will forget about people who are already here have forgotten about, the Husaria, the major Polish fan base for the Fire that came in amazing. They brought flares and everything. We had an amazing atmosphere in the early years of MLS that is forgotten now because all those people left because the Fire are so horrible.
Well, they didn't want them to
couldn't
keep
stick
around. They didn't want to keep them around, it seems. It's like, because it would be easy to keep them around if you employed the right people and you brought in the right guys. But they didn't do that.
I think that at the beginning of his tenure, Hauptman wanted to bring in the right people, and he couldn't.
Hauptman wanted to? He doesn't. I don't believe that, because Hauptman, to me, has a yes man in Nelson.
Right people. He wanted to bring in the right people, but he also wanted to make sure that those quote unquote right people were cheap. And
because I heard they didn't want Winalda because he's too much of a
I'm talking way back, like 2007 when he had first bought the team. When he first came in,
post
he wanted to
Wilt.
bring in the right people.
So Wilt had just left not too long ago, right after that, right?
Yeah, like John Guppy was still there, and he was there for the whole transition, and then he left, and we had, I think it was Posada. Yeah, I think it was Posada who came in, and he just wasn't quite the right guy for the job. It's a lot of things with I keep saying different names. Hauptman. A lot of things with Hauptman is that it seems like he wanted to do something at first, and it got to the point where he was just constantly trusting the wrong people that he said, screw it, I'm just going to give up on this and just try to get as many assets as possible.
Yeah.
And now that Mansueto's in, that's the moment where he can be I think I said this before on this podcast, that he can say, I want to be the owner that I wanted to be if I had those resources. Because Mansueto's the one with the resources. Hauptman's the one who has the vision. Lots of air quotes around that one.
Mansueto also has the connections, the Chicago connections.
Mansueto has the connections.
Yeah.
And so I think that Mansueto is kind of just giving Hauptman a small period of time to be like, you want to do this the way that you wanted to do this, fine, I'll let you have it. But I think that the moment that Mansueto figures out what he wants to do with this team and how he wants to run it, he's going to be firing people left and right. Once he finds his footing and figures out what he truly wants to do with this team, yes, he's had a long time, but it takes a long time, a lot of times with business stuff, and especially with sports. He came in late in the season. Mm-hmm. He wants to see how this is going to turn out if he keeps going this course. If he believes that he can fix it, he's going to wait.
Sure. Yeah.
And and then wait till he can evacuate or maybe have the league help jettison Hauptman. And potentially, but I heard that the league might help pony up money to help buy out of Bridgeview. That is an option that has been bandied about.
And league would probably give them money to buy new players because the league doesn't want to have a shit.
Chicago. Chicago, that's bad.
A hairy, shippy team in Chicago. There we go. But it's just, the league doesn't want a bad team in Chicago. They want a good team in Chicago. They want to get the Chicago fan base. If you looked at the numbers, Chicago was one of the biggest markets for the MLS Cup. Where are all those people?
I question.
Chicago Fire. They're fans of Atlanta. They're fans of
Liga MX.
CFC. They're fans of Seattle.
They're watching Premier League, Bundesliga,
or Liga MX. I just don't see my bug is this is a lot of too little too late for me. Where was this 6 years ago? Where was this when it was necessary? Where was this when we wanted to get Drogba?
And that's why they have to do well this year. They have to put a winning product on the pitch. Otherwise, they might turn some more fans off, and they can't really afford that.
Where was this when we wanted to keep Harrison, but Harrison was forced out of town, basically? I heard that they had basically, their hand was kind of forced to trade Harrison.
No, it wasn't. They weren't forced to trade Harrison.
No?
It was mostly because Nelson thought that he could get some money out of holding Harrison hostage.
Oh, my gosh. He was so wrong. He could have gotten way more.
Holding Harrison hostage. But my thing with it is that it's. Oh man, I lost my train of thought then. Cool. But the thing with how the Fire being good in Chicago, the reason why MLS didn't step in earlier. That was the thing that I wanted to mention about. Mm-hmm. The reason why MLS didn't step in earlier is because it didn't seem like an emergency in Chicago. We constantly were on the edge of like maybe we're going to do something. I don't know. And I think after Yelp, it sort of seems like okay, this is bad. 2 wooden spoon seasons in a row. this is bad. We need to fix something. And that's probably the moment that they stepped in is like, okay, we're going to try to find you guys a new owner. And now they're like giving funds to the Fire. It's like, here, please take this. Once again, I'm not quite sure anymore if Nelson was sent here by the league to fix us up, but it's quite possible that he could have been. And it's just the reason why MLS didn't want to help us. Of course, there's my tinfoil hat conspiracy about wanting to forget about the early 2000s years, about when the Fire were good and MLS as a whole was horrible. But it's also just the other teams wanted it more. Drogba, Montreal wanted him more. Other players, the other team wanted him more.
What about Brad Gazan? What about Spectre Gazan when these guys come available?
Didn't want him and doesn't want him now.
They'd never pounce on him.
Why aren't we getting Spectre? Why isn't Spectre signed? Or maybe they bring Spectre in as a trialist.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Spectre's not really good anymore, so that might be another reason why. But of course,
we don't have any center backs.
We
don't have any center backs.
No, I guess he was a right back, but he played center back for them.
One last question here.
Sure. Yeah.
One last question for you. Who would you rather own and run? The Chicago Wolves or the Chicago Fire?
Fire, easy. First
Fire,
team
because
professional.
You get more autonomy.
Yeah.
If you want to have a better comparison for this,
let us know, fans. Who would you rather own?
But if you want to have a better comparison for this, I think it'd be.
You're gonna say the Red Stars?
The Chicago Fire or. It's hard to compare MLS to anything else because we're a growing market, but at the same time, the Fire.
Yeah, Fire any days. One's a professional team, and you can market that better.
Atlanta United is comparable to the Atlanta Hawks, but the Chicago Fire is nowhere close to the Chicago Bulls. That's the difference in MLS because you have other teams that can get to those heights, but you have teams like us who are nowhere.
Yep.
So who would you rather own, Chicago Fire or the Chicago Red Stars? Who would you rather be a part of and trying to see grow? And I would say almost anyone would have to say the Red Stars because they're a part of a growing market.
They have like
the
6
soccer
national
market
team members, or like 5 or 6. They have like the most national team members on their team.
They could win the World Cup themselves. It's like the Chicago Fire thing was a joke. The Red Stars could win the World Cup on their own.
They really could. They're that good. Sam Kerr, and a couple of the other girls. Who would you rather own? The Chicago Fire, Minnesota United, or FC Cincinnati? Of those 3 teams, Minnesota, Cincinnati, Chicago. Certainly, Chicago is the easiest spending potential. The easiest earning potential is in Chicago.
Chicago right. You just gotta do it right.
Yeah, you just got to get it right. Of course, you'd always go with Chicago, but at the same time, I'd say the least likely that I would choose for that is FC Cincinnati. They're not in that good of a market. They've got a lot of great fans, but I don't know how well they're going to truly do.
Well, they drafted
Minnesota
a ton of guys.
I would take Minnesota over FC Cincinnati as well. I think right now it's hot in Cincinnati. It definitely is. It's hot in Minnesota. But
Cincinnati has a good fan base. They packed the stadium.
Well, Cincinnati has the Bengals, and Minnesota has the Vikings. So they got real NFL teams there, too. So these are, real legit towns with real legit sports towns.
When I went to Minnesota for that away trip, first off, it was a wonderful away trip for the fans. It was probably the last time that everybody in Section 8 was together because of all the bands and that sort of thing. But I think that all of the Minnesota fans, we got together, we hung out with them. They're great people. They love their team. They've stuck with their team for so long. And I think that, you'd want to have an old fan base like that, a team that's established within it, that you've got, let's be honest, a team that has a lot of hipsters around it. Let's be honest about that. That's the market we aim for. And it's just, I think that the Fire are just doing a horrible job at it. We aren't marketing to hipsters.
No, you never.
We're marketing to families. We're marketing to kids groups.
But you still never hear about them. You still, we always joke about this. The only Fire commercial we hear is their vision commercial, right?
Their eye doctor.
The eye doctor commercial. So,
that's the most we hear about the Chicago Fire in the city of Chicago. Never on the sports radio, never on 670, never on 1000, never hear anybody talking about them. You come to Spitting Fire, you hear talking about them. You go to Guillermo, you check out Danny Santorita, you check out Paul Tenorio, you check out some things on The Athletic. Maybe Cass has an article.
You
you check out Jiggly.
Jigs? Yeah, Jigs is up and running.
You get Jiggly on a few outlets.
Right, an MLS multiplex.
On multiplex still, right?
Yep. And
Nice,
on
good
Twitter.
for you.
And on Twitter.
When I get real sad at night.
Definitely give Jiggly a follow.
But I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
I got one last one. I do got one last. It's a fun experiment. Who would you rather own, Columbus FC or Austin?
Austin, you have a brand new city. Columbus, you have an old school. You have an
I
old
have
fan
no
base.
idea.
It's really. It depends on what kind of person you are. If you want to be somebody who's going to try to maximize the potential, you want to take Austin. If you want to be somebody who wants to have just a good place, you go to Columbus.
Yeah.
Well, yes, Columbus might be safer. You could probably get Columbus right and get people there, and yeah, Austin. There we go. People saying Austin.
I think Austin is going to be harder to get right.
Austin.
And Columbus, I really think they have the base there, they have the history
going
there.
on
They
with FC
established, they put some money into that team for Caleb Porter.
FC Dallas.
FC Dallas.
Are they packing the stands?
No, they're not. FC Dallas is not packing the stands.
No.
They have.
Which is surprising because they have such a good team.
Yeah.
They've had issues with attendance as bad as the Fire have actually, and
I mean,
they've put out a good team consistently.
I keep using this word and I keep pausing when I use
Everyone
this
hates
word. Now
Austin
I'm mentioning
already.
about this word,
Except
but
Austin.
the hipsters. Austin's filled with hipsters. You're gonna get a crowd there. Dallas not as much, but Austin's filled with hipsters. You're gonna get a soccer fan base out of those people.
Nate Cubetta talked about the Fire. on
I'm
the
pretty
score.
sure the only time I've heard the Fire talk about the score was when Nate Cubetta talked with Julie DeCaro about Free 101. We've also heard Dax and
Well,
Basti, I think, talk with Lawrence.
Fred Hubner mentions it
With
sometimes.
Lawrence, right?
But anyways,
Yeah, it's
What's-
always like a passing mention.
Yeah.
The rules get talked about more than others.
and they're always left out of like Comcast SportsNet's figures and statistics, and it's sad. But anyways, boys and girls, we're gonna end it here.
I would say any of these all these new teams should go to USL. I would say Nassau, but they're pretty much dead. This one, Nassau is pretty much dead. You got to
Yeah,
go to
NASL's
USL,
dead
and
already.
it's the Fed's got to organize. The Fed's got to organize MLS and USL, get it going, just make it the tiered system, get some sort of promotion relegation. Even if it's one or two teams just going, that would be incredible. That would be awesome for competition. That'd be inspirational. I don't know. I've just that to me, as from being a ex-soccer
Yeah.
player.
Yeah. Anyways, James, I gotta get rolling here. So we
right.
got to.
All right, Jiggly. Any last
gotta
thoughts
eat.
here? All right, Jiggly. Any last thoughts?
See you guys. Thank you guys for watching so much.
Wait. Jiggly. Any last thoughts here?
I gotta eat.
All right, Jiggly's hungry for some wins that we might not get this year. All right, guys, toss us a like if you enjoyed the conversation. Toss us a like if you enjoyed Jiggly coming on as per usual. Subscribe, hit that bell button so you can get notified of our live streams as always. We have a special guest potentially lined up in the next few weeks, so look
We'll
out
see.
for that announcement. It's definitely going to happen. We just got to figure out when. That'll be fun. So just throwing out a little tease there.
Trying.
No, it's a little tease. But,
All right. Anyways.
happy fire, happy trails. So it's fired up footballers. We'll see you guys later. Thank you, Jiggly, for coming on, and thanks you guys for watching.
Thanks, Jake.